Hi, welcome back to the We're Not From Hollywood podcast. I'm Brandon Reines.
Hi, I'm Faizel Jamama, and we have our guest today, Elena Hlebnicova. We just checked out of his name. I just stumbled on it.
Thanks for being on the show, Elena.
No, thank you for inviting.
So, for those of you who don't know, Elena was in, I think her biggest role probably was she was the main character in the wraparound story for the Ezra and Gore Girl horror anthology that I released fairly recently. And you'll also see her in Grotesque and Grotesque 2 and a few other things. So, Elena, maybe start off by telling us how you first got involved in the film world here in Edmonton.
Well, by accident, actually, I noticed an audition for one of the roles on Facebook, so made a self-tape. I auditioned and got lucky enough to get the role. We trained, we filmed. That was for Darker Than Night. And then I met people, I met more people, we talked, and then they introduced me to different directors, and I was lucky enough to continue the streak.
So, had you done any performing work before Darker Than Night?
I did. I used to work as a model in Tokyo for 1.5 years. We did some commercials or not really film. I always wanted to be in film, but I never really associate myself with it because I have like no background in it. I never studied for it or anything. I just thought it'd be really cool.
Yeah, I mean, hey, that's what we all think. It's going to be cool times, and
Yeah.
it is cool times.
There's a lot of people I know that kind of got their start that way because sometimes it's like who you know, like someone like a person can kind of like help you out with your career. But a lot of people I worked
Mhm.
with, they kind of just like Elena said, they just saw a posting online and came out for it. I remember Omar Abubakar, who's in a
Mm.
few of my movies, he auditioned for The Mustache, which was a short film that I wrote, directed by Michael Charnet. And he said he just saw a post online. He had an interest in acting. He had like zero experience. Like even when he came into the room to audition, he's like, I don't even know how to audition. I've never done this, so we kind of had to talk him through it. But it just
Mhm.
came from just seeing something and just kind of putting yourself out there and trying, even though he had no experience. Yeah, that's even how Julie, if I remember in our interview with Julie, she said she just responded to a casting call for a play and wound up getting the lead role. So it
She
kind of
did.
shows
Yes.
it shows how what it could lead to just by putting yourself out there and just trying.
That's true because I mean, if you're not out there, nobody knows you exist. That's the thing. That's the
Yeah.
main thing with all the show business
Yeah,
or any kind of thing.
you
It's
got to
actually
buy
how
it.
I met Jarvis. It was I don't know, it was probably 2017 or 16, something like that. I just saw a Facebook post and he said, he's a producer director in Edmonton looking for scripts. So I just messaged him, introduced myself. We met for coffee. That led to John 316 getting made, and that led to us working
Mm.
together and on many other projects. So just kind of advice that to never underestimate what you can make with just one connection, just reaching out to one person. You never know where that's going to lead. So, Lena, tell us about how you got involved in higher universe films.
Well, it's all like you said before, it's who you meet. So it's all because of somehow I met him on another set of Disguise. And then he's like, "Well, if you want to be in movies, why don't you come help out?" And then when you told about Grotesque, he told me, "Hey, do you want to try for this?" I was like, "Absolutely." And I believe I auditioned for the role of Zoe, and that's how I got to know you guys. Because our Grotesque one was the first time we met.
Yeah, I remember it was during the camp scene. I don't. Did you audition? I don't even remember. It could have
I
been.
think I did something because you didn't know me before.
Yeah, it's hard to remember. It's so long ago now. There were so many
Yeah.
people involved. I remember you. 'Cause I remember Sam was like, "Oh, I met this person, Elena,"
Mm,
and we were kind of like, okay." So we kind of brought you on board. It's possible either
mm,
I didn't watch the auditions because Julie and other people were dealing with that. Um, but yeah, I remember. Yeah, the first time we met you was out at the camp scenes. You came out and you were kind of
mm.
a newer person around, and we had no idea that it would lead to much collaboration in the future. So what were your thoughts like when you were working on Grotesque? What was that experience like?
No, well, that was like absolutely so cool because I got to see how all the horror movies are made. You see behind the scenes and how things are, like you have guts and blood and how it is all filmed because it looks so realistic on screen. And then you see it's being made. And it becomes really, really quite something to watch. Like if you ever want to have fun, get involved in a horror movie. Yeah.
So what? Why don't we? You mentioned you modeled in Tokyo, Elena.
Yeah.
So I wanted to widen the lens out because I know you and you weren't born in Tokyo either, right?
No, no.
Why don't you give us a little rundown on how you came to Edmonton, basically.
Okay, so I was still born back in where was the Soviet Union back then, in the Republic of Moldova now. When I was 3 years old, we moved to Japan because of my dad's work. I lived there for like about 10 years. And then our parents wanted us to, I guess, move to English speaking country. And then we picked Canada because of our cat, because we couldn't take her to all the other countries. And we were not going to leave her. No, part of the family. I picked her up when I was 3 years old. Yeah. So yeah, Canada was the place. And my dad actually knew a couple of people here in Edmonton. And they told him, hey, just come to Edmonton. He found work. That's how I got into Edmonton. And that's where we lived ever since.
What you could say is that we owe our opportunity to work for you to your cat.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, cats bring me good luck. Everything good I have is based on cats.
Based on your cat? I mean, I believe it. How did you get involved with modeling in Tokyo? Is that something that's easy to get involved with in Tokyo, or is that something that, like, you had to like find a road to?
Well, I mean, it was accidental because I never really saw myself as a model. I thought it was really girly. I wanted to do things like I wanted to be in the military or in the police service. I was like, oh, the kind of thing. And people are like, look at yourself. Like, come on.
I
And I was
love
like, oh
your
no.
jacket.
And like the more they mentioned you're being a model, the more I got pissed off because I mean that's not what people want me, that's not how I want to be seen. And then we at one point we had kind of like a difficulty. And there was a modeling agency in West Edmonton Mall. And I thought, like, well, you know what? If I can help my family, maybe make some money, people think I look like it. Why not? I went in there and they kind of like half expecting to be rejected because I mean, I don't really see myself. I'm super shy. I don't want anybody touching me or whatever. And modeling, people like all over you, right? I was like, no, not my thing. But they took me in. It was really nice. And I learned that, you can actually go to different countries. And I was like, okay, sign me up. And then I got lucky. And we had this convention in Vancouver where people get picked to go all over the world. I was lucky to talk to people and being picked to go to Tokyo. I worked
Hey,
there for 6 months. And then they took me back for a year later. That was fantastic.
yeah. So that was like basically you going home, or like did you go back to the same place that you grew up in Tokyo, or did you go like,
No, I went to a different place, but it was kind of like coming home because
yeah?
everything I was used to as a kid, but now everything was much smaller because I'm taller. Yeah, that was really fun.
Yeah, that's one thing. When I was younger, I went to Japan for a couple months, and yeah, that's what I remember is that I'm pretty tall here in Canada.
Yeah.
In Japan, I am very tall to the point like
Yeah.
people would just stare at me everywhere I
Oh,
went.
yeah.
And every time I'd be around a group of people that are speaking Japanese, and I can't understand what they're saying, but they're like blah blah blah. Whoa, and I could tell by their
It's
gestures
like,
when they're
wait a
talking.
minute.
It's like,
Yeah.
okay, guy, I'm not a freak in Canada, but apparently I am in Japan.
No, you'll be really noticeable there, yeah. Like, I remember, like, I was going home from our thing in high heels because that was the only shoes I brought for some reason. And then there was a little girl on the train, like, "Mommy, she's so big. I wanna be just like her." I was like, "No, no, we don't grow that way." 'Cause, I mean, I speak the language, but they don't because you look foreign, they don't think
Yeah,
you
yeah, yeah.
understand. So sometimes you get those comments, they're really very cute.
Yeah, didn't you get a chance to on the set of Grotesque 2, didn't you get a chance? We had a couple, I'm not sure where they came from, but there was a couple of like young Japanese girls there
Mm.
that I don't know if they
Yeah.
spoke English, and tell us what happened with that.
Yeah, I believe, like, yeah, they were in a they were in a scene where they were watching the movie in a church, I believe, in a camp. So they didn't know how to do a certain thing. I believe I gave some translation or instructions. I'm not really sure on what, but they understood, like, when they had to clap and watch the TV.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I think they were quite pleased, and I think Elizabeth speaks a bit of Japanese too. I think she even
Oh,
spoke
I
to
didn't
them, and
know that.
they were
That's cool.
they were apparently quite shocked that
Yeah.
multiple
Like,
people there spoke their language.
they get really shocked if somebody foreign looking that is not Japanese speaks Japanese. So, yeah, that's
It
always like,
must be
"Oh, you
pretty
can
rare.
talk." They're really kind, though. They're really nice about it.
Yeah, it was kind of nice to have them out. They were, even their language difficulties, but they seemed happy to be there and they were
Mhm.
participating, and they just they seemed to be having a great time. So I was glad that they were able
Yeah.
to have that experience. I'm not sure if they were like exchange students or something. I don't know.
I'm
I don't know
not
if
sure.
Sam found them somewhere,
Hmm.
but yeah, it was kind of cool to people like that opportunities to watch something great.
I mean, Japanese people usually, I mean, they're really, really excited. They're kind. They're super hardworking. And so, yeah, they're like, even if there's difficulty, they'll overcome it and be really joyful about it. It's usually they're really cool.
Do you ever plan to go back to Japan, or do you are
I
you?
always plan to go back to Japan. Like I don't have work or money.
Yeah, fair
Because
enough.
it's not a cheap place to go. It's fun. It's super, super, super fun, but it's expensive. If you want to live, like let's say you go to Tokyo, you want to live somewhere in the center where everything happens, that's super expensive. But if you live far away, you're gonna be wasting so much time on trains here and back. And like they stop running, I think at 12. So you're gonna miss all the nightlife. And there's what's the
Oh,
point.
do they really stop running at 12?
I think so, 12 or 1. But I mean, because life goes on afterwards.
Yeah,
And you
yeah,
want to
yeah,
be
yeah.
there and then you can't go back. Taxis cost a fortune.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So I mean
That's the
it's
one thing I'd want to see about Tokyo is, or just Japan in general, is like the train system. I've always heard the train system
always fantastic. It's super
isn't.
quick. It's on
Yeah.
time. You can get
Yeah, I
anywhere
remember
seriously.
like yeah, everything there's train because here in Edmonton, like we have like the LRT, the train that goes around the city, but
Hmm.
we don't really have trains that go anywhere else. Whereas
Nope.
there, it's like you can live in one city, work in another city, and just zip there and back in, a short period of
Man.
time. Kind of like like
Hmm.
their commute could be here to like Winnipeg and and they just zip there and back in like 45 minutes. And it's I mean, they have a lot of people packed into a small place, so like they have to have an efficient system. In Canada, where very few people
Hmm.
packed into an enormous space of mostly useless territory. So
Less
it's
efficient.
very different.
So you mentioned high heels, Elena. I wanted to bring up like
Oh,
so
geez.
in your you're just like
Yeah.
why the heels
Oh, never
in
mind. Ignore it.
Dance with the Devil,
Oh, yeah.
the film that you were in where you played the spy. You
Hmm.
did a lot of stunts in high heels and like
Yeah.
how?
Well, girls have
How?
powers, whatever. No, I mean, the thing is, I really wanted to, like, when I do something, I really want it to be good. And I want to practice and do it well. Like, not like, halfway. Oh, yeah, I'll just do it easy way. I want to do it right way. And I want it to look cool. So, yeah, I was like, Spencer was like, you can take those off. Like, no, no, I'm doing it in heels. I'm not taking them off. It all makes no sense. Besides, I think it would look cool.
But you
And it
climb
did.
the wall in heels. Like, is that not really hard? Like, there's no stability there, right? It's
Well, the
all
thing is,
because
I was
it's
I
not a
was on a
smooth
man's
wall
back.
either.
Yeah. I was on a guy's back, so I was kind of stable. But the hardest part that I was worrying about is landing. Because I never flipped and landed on heels before. Because you don't want to land on the heel. You want to
No.
land on a tiptoe. And I was like, okay, well, I never tried that before. Because that's like the first time I did it. Spencer told me the day before, oh, by the way, you'll be doing this. I'm like, okay. I never tried it. We never rehearsed it. You tell me how. So that was like the only part I was really worried about was the landing. Like if we filmed it in the beginning, if that was the last scene in the movie, I would have flipped harder. Just
So
in case if I don't land it bad, you'll still have the movie.
so walk me through it because now you
Yeah.
just like spark my brain up. All like you show up, you're on set, you're ready basically to like tackle this guy and bring him down to the
Mhm.
ground, and then
Yeah.
Spencer is like, oh, by the way, also you're gonna have to climb this wall and do a flip, and you're gonna have to do it
Mm.
in heels. So what's going through your like? Walk me through it.
No, no, it was not quite like that. Like he sent me a video the day before of him doing the exact same thing with the same guy in a jujitsu class. Well, I mean, of course, like, like they're barefoot and he did it kind of like slowly and like this. I was like, whoa, that is cool. And second, well, like, I have no idea how to do this. And my third thought, like, you know what, in less than 24 hours, not only would it be done, I would actually doing it. Okay. So I show up on set. I know I was going to be wearing a dress. So I was like, well, show me how. I tried a couple of times without heels. And then when I kind of got the landing, at least I knew how to flip. It's like, oh, yeah, I'll do it in heels. And we tried a couple of times and it worked. That's pretty much that's all there is to stunts. Like you just practice and like you just go with the moment. Trust yourself. Never do it halfway. Like commit to it and actually do it. Don't be like, oh no, I'm gonna be stopping halfway. And I'm like, I was landing badly. No, no. Landing is everything.
So when did you decide you wanted to do stunt work? Like
Always.
that's different from
Always.
acting, is that right?
Yeah. I mean that's what I always wanted to do. Like when I thought acting, I always thought action movies. Like you
I,
would watch Jackie Chan films with my brother and like you pause it and then try to recreate it and try to play fight. And I've been done things like climbing trees and jumping off things for no reason because I thought it'd be cool because I want to like prepare for if anything happens. I'm ready. Nothing ever happens, but just in case. And I always thought it'd be so cool to be in movies, but I just had no idea like how or when or because I had no training. Right? I'm not an actor, so my brain's like, you're not an actor. You can't be in movies, obviously.
no,
So
never.
yeah, yeah. Who knows? Like, that was a lot of things that I didn't know.
Yeah, I remember when we were on we were shooting Grotesque 2
Yeah.
and Spencer came out to he just kind of volunteered to shoot some behind the scenes video because he just kind of wanted to meet everyone. And kind of while we were on break, him and Elena were like going off in a corner in the church and
Just
practicing
fighting each
fight
other.
moves for their movie. So I guess they
Yeah.
practiced every second they could.
It was really fun. Like you have no idea how much you can do, and then, like what one thing can lead to another. It was like I'm really grateful for him, actually. Like big things, because I've been saying to people like, "Yeah, I want to do stunts, I want to do this," but like you guys know how I look, right? It's not really impressive. Like nobody ever associates the two. But now I actually have the chance to prove, like, you guys, I told you I can if I train. There you go. See, I'm trainable.
Well, now that I know you want to do stunts, I'm gonna write in a bunch of
Yeah.
stunt scenes.
Well, there you go. See, like sometimes people need to see you because I mean, the way you look and your abilities sometimes don't match.
So
Yeah.
what kind of stunt training do you, or like not stunt training, but fight training do you have?
Um,
Did you start from complete zero and build your way up, or had you had some martial arts training?
well, yeah, I did Taekwondo for years, for many years. I don't know when I was younger. But then again, like my university classes started being at the same exact time when we had Taekwondo classes, so I had to stop, and then our school closed. Yeah, I
Oh,
mean, I still practice at home. I do stretches. Like if I'm walking to a store, if there's some kind of like a curve or something, I'll jump over it. I'll climb on it. Like I always try to keep myself in shape. And if I see an
urban
opportunity for
warfare.
some kind of practice, I'll do it. Yeah.
But then, and so like, are you starting to train in are you going into jujitsu training? Are you trying to do any stunt training, or are you just like sticking with like the taekwondo stretches and the like?
I'm not doing anything at this point, so I don't know. Like I haven't gotten myself involved in any classes or anything. But like if anything is ever needed, I'll train for it, 100%.
Hey,
Yeah.
all right, can you jump off of a building?
I haven't done that yet.
I'd
But
say
with proper
like Grotesque
instructions, I
3.
probably would.
Grotesque
Yeah.
3. Brandon, can we blow up a building? Mildred blow up an entire
Oh my
building and then
god.
have Elena jump from it?
I don't know if that's quite in our budget, but we'll look into it.
See, something like this is more realistic to me than some other basic, people things. Like for me right now, because I'm super single, right? Like, oh yeah, I can see myself jumping off a building versus like, oh, I can see myself with a family. I can't see that. But I can jump off a building. It's just more realistic at this point.
Tell us about playing the main character in the horror anthology, because that was kind of you as the main character. You were no longer kind of hidden in the background. You were the kind of the main person on screen. So tell us about how that came about and what that experience was like.
Oh, that was so amazing. Actually, that was like you said, like the first time you were the main character. So I was like, oh man, that's a big honor. Again, because like, I don't have any former or like proper actor training. I had some classes in agency, but it's not like you went to school for years since your childhood. So I was like, oh man, yeah. So I try to like memorize all the lines. I practiced so many times. I was nervous actually. Yeah,
I
I
didn't
was, of
come across
course.
as nervous.
Oh, good, good. Rehearse a lot. Like I always like with anything, like I need to like know for sure all the lines, all the moves. Otherwise, I get nervous. I'll still get nervous, but I need to be ready.
Well, sometimes part of the nervousness is like it adds to the performance because you can use that energy to like feed it into something else.
Mm-hmm. No, that's good. Yeah.
What did you think of Eureka's Russian accent? Do you think she was pretty authentic on it, or do you want to coach her?
No, I think she did good because I don't know how to do accents. People say I
No,
have one, but I don't see it. Like, you can't really hear yourself when you
no,
talk.
no, no, no. That's true.
But I think she did a good job. Like she always like she never broke character. I was really impressed.
Yeah, for those who don't know, in Grotesque 2, Eureka Aragon, one of our actors, plays the role of Cindy Spretzer. She's one of the members of the evil family in the movie, and there's kind of an ongoing joke where she speaks with a Russian accent, but no one
No,
can
it was
hear
a
the
British
accent.
accent.
Nobody can hear the accent except for Mildred, the main character. So it kind of becomes this ongoing joke with this accent. What projects do you have coming up, Elena?
Well, we have one project coming out with you
Really?
soon,
Tell me about
hopefully,
it.
yeah.
I'm not aware of this.
Well, it's gonna be called Mirabel versus Earthlings. I'll be playing an alien sent to Earth to see how things go. And then that could be really interesting because I get myself in all kinds of situation that normal people wouldn't, just because they know how to behave, and I won't. And then I'll also be playing with Elizabeth Chamberlain, who's going to be my friend, who is going to be teaching me how to behave properly on Earth.
Yeah, it's
So I'm
gonna
really
be
excited about
fun.
it. It'll be different.
And Spencer Richard, actually, he's we went out to Edson the other day for his movie premiere. We were talking, we're bringing him on board.
Mm.
He's gonna kind of help co-produce, be director of photography kind of thing. So we get to
Mhm.
kind of combine our two teams together to make this. I think we made the movie poster. It looks pretty good. I got the story outline down. I'm gonna finish writing it soon. So we're hoping to shoot like this spring, like fairly soon. I think it's gonna be great. Just it's a little bit, maybe like 20% sci-fi, 80% comedy. It's different than a lot of the projects I make. I just wanted to do something different, and just something about Elena pretending not to be from Earth, and she doesn't understand basic human interactions, and just all the funny things that could come from someone who doesn't understand how human life works. And there's like so many jokes we could fit in there, and throw in some alien stuff. Where Faizel may or may not be playing one of the aliens. We're still trying to figure out how that's going to work and finish casting. But I want him involved in some capacity, so he's going to be in the movie one way or another.
Yes.
I would love to be an alien. Just like how kooky can we get with the makeup?
Yeah, that's the thing. Is like, yeah, Jamie Clark and I are talking about that. It's like, if we can make it look good and we can make the like alien ship look decent, we can go for it. But if it's gonna just look bad, I might end up just cutting all the alien stuff and we just hear the voices in her head, which is kind of a cheap way to do it. But I also don't want to spend a ton of money for something that looks like shit. So, so it's just gonna be part of pre-production. We'll have to, do a makeup test and see what we can get these aliens to look like. And I don't know, we got some talented people on the team that are good at creating things. So I think it's possible that we could.
Hey, Jamie Clark, she made my head explode in a horror show too, which you were also in, right, Elena?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, how did you do? So I spoiler alert, I got my head exploded. It looks so good. I love how good it looks. Well, how do you go in horror show?
Well,
she dies twice.
Yeah.
Twice.
Yeah, but the same guy, kind of. Spoiler alert. So first time I think we shot it in your house, I try to fight him and then I get stabbed. And second time I try to fight him again and then I get my head squished under the press.
I mean, so
the board or whatever he's using, yeah.
This is obviously a different kind of makeup setup than modeling. How much do you enjoy this kind of makeup?
No, I like this so much better.
Yeah.
It's just a very different thing. Like, I mean, when
it's
you do
so
a
fun to be
movie,
like, well, you're gonna get stabbed, and then like
it's more fun. It's more fun.
Yeah, she died once, like in the movie part, but then there's a scene that's like the movie within the movie. And she plays an actor in the movie, so she dies that way too. But yeah, we filmed well, it might have been like almost a year and a half or 2 years ago. We filmed the first part where she fights Jordy. He squishes her hand underneath a board. So we made this like fake head it was like a styrofoam head, and we had like fake eyes that we had like a basically like a red cable, supposed to be some sort of like vein or whatever. And we're gonna like have her eyes pop out of her head. So we had the eyes popped out, we pulled them in, and then we were gonna like reverse it to look like they popped out. And it just didn't look real enough. So actually it was that same day, Faizel, that we shot your scene. We ended up reshooting an angle from above where we basically put like a big balloon full of blood underneath a piece of wood in Jordy's basement, and then we squished that. And then we edited that into her death scene, and it looks good too. Like, yeah, your head getting crushed, like it's just
balloons filled with blood. Awesome. Who knew? So versatile.
Yeah,
I think people are gonna love the kills in that movie. Like we shared one where Katrina gets her head sliced.
Oh, that was a good one.
That way in the cemetery, and I shared it on Facebook. I'm surprised it didn't get like flagged for violence, but it got more. It got like more likes and comments and shares on it than any other post I made in the history of Facebook. Like it was like several hundred.
Wow.
So I think people just really love that. There's just a few kills in there that when I show people the rough cut of the movie, they just like laugh their ass off, like because they're so hilariously good. Like guys getting their heads punched off, and like we really went all out. Yeah, I can't wait to get the movie finished.
What else do you have coming up in the future then, Elena? We've talked about Mirabelle and the Earthlings. Well, what else are your plans?
We probably gonna be cooperating with Dylan for one project. I'm not sure if we can discuss it right now, but like he wrote a story that he wants to film, and I'm gonna be a character in it. I'm excited for that one. Well, I don't know what else. Like whatever it is at this point, I'm just excited by it.
Now
I'm
begins
open.
the acting career of Elena.
Yeah, who knows? You know, you never know.
You were also
Hey.
you were in I'm Haunted 2, which I just released. You played
Mhm.
you played Bailey's boss in that. And you also helped out on set too, so you had a fairly big hand in that. So
Mm.
What do you like
Uh,
most, behind the camera or in front of the camera? What do you prefer, or what do you prefer about each one?
mm. See, like it's I like behind the camera because I sometimes, you know, in our photography at the agency, like I assist photographers, and like if there's anything wrong, you say have a hair here or like dress looks differently, like I'm pretty good at adjusting it so it looks better. So same kind of thing behind the camera. Like if you need help with anything, if you notice something, if there's need to be help with the props or something, like you can always advise and make it better. Like I really like that because I notice details. But I also like to be in front of camera. I mean, because you're in a movie, and especially if you can show skill or ability or surprise people, I like that a lot.
So Elena, what's one
Yeah.
piece of advice that you could give to people who want to get into acting?
Find opportunities, audition, keep going, don't give up because you never know where things can lead. And if you have a special skill, try to show it somehow, write it on your resume, but just keep going. Keep going and don't quit. If you want it, be persistent.
How do you stay encouraged when you like hit setbacks and when things don't go your way? How do you like course correct?
Well, I think it's for me though, like I had so many of them and so many situations where I just had to like the only option was to keep going. So I'm kind of build a tough skin and immunity to those kind of situations to start with. But I think if we're gonna say an advice, like you're gonna be rejected from your work, your at audition, anything in life, it's gonna happen. So you have to you remember like you have yourself, know yourself, like yourself. Because if one thing fails, you still have you. You can keep going. It's not your problem. Like there's nothing wrong with you. You're just not right for that role. Don't, yeah. You know what? Be confident in yourself, like yourself, and just know that you have your back and keep going with it.
Yeah, what do you think is your biggest win? Because you've done a lot. You've done modeling, you've done acting, you're a stunt performer.
Yeah.
And I know you're a painter as well as an origami
Mhm.
artist. You do so
Yeah.
many things. So what do you think is your biggest achievement in those various art forms?
It's hard to say, but I think like one thing is the thing that I'm probably most proud of. I mean, I do like to just a lead role in like Dance the Devil thing. That was super cool, and I got on a poster and everything. That was sweet. But I think what I'm most proud of is like a lot of things didn't work out. A lot of things people I had to overcome, and I'm still here, still happy, still going, and I haven't lost the let's just say imagination and creativity. Like artist life is never easy. Like you get discouraged from all kinds of people. You get all kinds of comments like, "Why are you doing this? Brings you no money. At your age, people have families, all kinds of stuff." Like
Yeah.
but through all of this, like I was proud of myself that I kept going. I kept drawing. I kept imagination, and it's still with me. Like that's my proudest thing. Is with all those tools, you can go to any country. If you go, like I say, if you have yourself, if you have your mind, you can do anything anywhere. And I kept that going. Like I'm proud of that because there were a lot of times that could have stopped.
I think that's
I
very
think
encouraging
that's
for everyone. A great advice for anyone listening. I imagine a lot of people that listen to this are probably
Hmm.
involved in the film industry, or they want to be involved in the industry, or they have some interest in it. And sometimes you kind of need that. So you need that
Yeah,
pep talk because like everyone gets down on themselves, and no matter
yeah,
how big you get, like even Steven Spielberg makes movies that everyone hates, and his career kind of
mm,
takes a dump for a bit, and so it's like everyone has to go
mm,
through that, and so it's
yeah,
kind of like we need to encourage each other that it's like, yeah, this is normal, and just keep going, fight
yeah.
through it, and then things kind of turn around. And so, yeah,
Hmm.
I think that's great advice.
Because I want to say one more thing is like when people say, "Oh, I can't make it. There's not enough time." But like, think of it this way: like, let's say I'm here, like I'm 35 right now. How much time do I have? Let's say I live a terrible lifestyle and I die at 50. That's still 20 more years.
Yeah.
20 more years
a
to do
lot of
whatever you're
time.
planning to do. Yeah, right? Like you don't have time. So you have a bad year. Just keep going. You never know. Like you have more time than you think.
Thank
Okay.
you for being on the show, Elena. I mean, I'm sure we're going
No
to be
worries.
seeing you again very soon for Mirabelle and other projects,
Again and again and
Yeah.
again.
and again and
Hope
again.
so. And I want to see all you guys and work with you guys forever.
And you, of course, you're invited on our road trip that Faizel and I have been
Hmm.
Machinating.
On the last
All right.
episode, we talked about this road trip we're setting up. Now everyone's messaging me about it, and it's like it's not
Oh,
actually happening yet. It's going to involve a lot of work, but
Listen, I'm just gonna say, only message if you have a bus. If you have a
mhm.
bus, we want to hear from you, or several cars.
bonus
Oh, I
points
don't
if you
have
have a
those.
bus driver's license and can drive the bus. We don't got to hire someone.
Oh no, Elena will get the training for that.
Yeah. But I mean, if it's an open road, you can tell me how to start.
All right. Well, thanks again for being on the show, and we'll see you soon, Elena.
All right. Thanks for inviting.
Bye.
See you guys.
Okay, so that was a great interview with Elena. She's I think she's a very talented person, and it's kind of great how she just kind of signed up one day for an audition, and that led her to meeting Sam, that led her to meeting
Now
me, that
she's
led her
doing
to meeting
flips all over
Spencer.
the place, and
Now she's actively involved in the film community, and she's even done like she did some artwork. She drew some pictures of like Mildred Moyer from Grotesque, so she's really helped out a lot. She's in Horror Show that you'll see whenever that comes out. She did the design on the tombstone that we made. She did that.
Oh,
So she
yeah.
does a lot of artistic type things. So I think she has a bright future ahead of her.
I mean, to anyone, I think that was the whole theme of the podcast is like, if you feel like you want to do it. Because there's people who have less training, quote unquote, who are also doing it and are doing it like pretty good. So
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
get off your ass, do something.
Yeah. So for our thoughts on things segment, I had someone ask me recently my thoughts on PG-13 horror movies and whether or not that's acceptable. Because I think there's a select group of people that think, it's a horror movie, it needs to be rated R, it needs to be bloody and scary. And if you somehow cheapen it by making it PG-13 just to get the bigger audience, that somehow you're kind of selling out. So we thought we would discuss that today. What are your thoughts on that, Faizel?
So, I mean, so let's break it down in terms of why you're selling out, I guess. Because I have thoughts on that, and maybe tell me if I'm on the right thought on your end. I always assume PG-13 is that one rating area where like you can hit as many people as you can. Like people who like to watch R-rated movies still are able to, like, it's not a movie for children, it's PG-13, but it's also not a movie specifically for adults. There's no like, there's minimal swearing and boobs in the movie. But it still has horror themes. I'm trying to think of like PG-13 horror movies that I've seen. I don't think they really go for a lot of the blood, but some of them can be relatively scary.
Yeah,
Um,
I think people would assume that I would just be dead set against it, but honestly, I'm not. I might even
no?
go so far as to say I kind of like some of those. I can't even really think of an example. I know there's every once in a while they pop
Yeah,
up.
there's always one or two that come in, but then you're like, that was amazing, but you never think of it again.
Yeah, and I mean, and honestly, there are movies like Monster Squad and stuff from the '80s that I absolutely love. That they're not rated R as far as I know. They're almost kids movies, but they have that monster kind of horror angle to it. I think they're still very good movies. I think if you set out and that's your intention is to like this is my movie and what it ends up being rated PG-13, if that's what you wanted to do, it could still be a cool horror movie. I
I
think
think
the
so.
problem where you could be considered selling out is if you're like, hey, we're making this movie, but it's going to be rated R just so we can make a little bit more money, have a wider audience. We're going to start cutting things out of it. And you start censoring yourself. I think that's where it becomes a problem because then you're kind of cheating the audience of what it was supposed to be. And if you're kind of doing that, like, it's funny is whenever these movies pop up, like I think it was one of the Aliens versus Predator or something that was like that. And there's always a big online freak out about people hating on it for that reason. And sometimes it's kind of deserved because it's like the only reason they're doing that is just get a bigger audience, like they just see the dollar signs, and then it's the studio that's kind of putting pressure on them that you can't have this, you can't have that in it. And then all of a sudden it's like, yeah, people are being cheated. And I would hate to have to watch a horror movie knowing that it was just absolutely, stripped down of the cool stuff.
All the good kills or all the little parts of it. So like I guess in your opinion or your conception is like if it starts as an R-rated horror movie, just follow it all the way in through to the R-rated horror movie. Do you feel like you can usually tell like if someone starts cutting away stuff from an R-rated movie?
I honestly don't. I don't think an average person could tell. I don't think I could
Huh?
tell. And usually, like, because you wouldn't know what they
No,
shot,
no,
what
no.
they intended. The only time is if you're watching, behind the scenes or
Or
commentary.
if the story doesn't make sense. Like there's definitely been some cuts sometimes where it's like, what? This doesn't really make sense. And then you find out later that they cut out entire characters or something like that. And you're like, oh.
Yeah, there's things like that, but it also like in that situation, it's like, was that just like a bad editing choice, or was that just to cut back on the ratings? Because I know there's a lot of
That's
movies
fair.
like like Freddy and Jason movies where the directors complained that they were heavily edited to avoid like the X or NC-17 rating,
What do
but
you
they're still rated R, and even that sucks because it's like, man, I would want to see those more graphic kills, but it just doesn't exist. And but to purposely do that to yourself, it's like I want to make this movie, but I'm gonna have to like kind of bring it back a little bit to squeak under that R rating line. That it just seems kind of like you're cheating a little bit. But if it's like, hey, you made this cool movie, it's a horror movie, and you know what, there's no nudity or swearing in it, and the violence isn't as bloody as normal. There's no reason to be like ashamed. There's no like you have to be rated R. You have to have this level of guts in it just to appease the horror fans. Like I think it's kind of a foolish argument.
What do you think of the Trey Parker, Matt Stone technique of like, I think for Captain America, they kept getting censored by the MPAA. So like they would be like, this is rated R, and they wanted like a specific rating. So when they get it back, what they do is they re-edit it, but they put in more explicit scenes. Like if they had a scene happening where like someone was doing something to someone else, like they just double down and make it more explicit and then send it back. The MPAA would be like, okay, well, if you cut these crazier ones, you can have like the tamer one. So like they keep doing that to like get the movie they wanted with the rating they wanted.
Yeah, that's hilarious. Well, we don't really have that problem. Like with like we got to get our movies rated
Yeah.
for show them in the
Eh.
theaters, and I'm doing that now for Grotesque 2.
All right,
And
what's the process of that? How do you find that process?
it's through I think it's the Alberta ratings board or whatever.
Mhm.
And basically, I know I just send them an email, and they're like, "Yep, send us a link to the video," and then they rate it. And it's kind of like with the first one, like it's not like the '80s where they made you like cut stuff. Like they basically just give it a whatever the Canadian equivalent is of R, like 18A or
Yeah.
whatever. It's
Yeah.
just like they give it that. It's like there was virtually no discussion. I think for Hot Box, I was kind of worried because just like all the drug
Drug
content, I didn't know
references.
how offended they would be. But I'm pretty sure that one was like 14 or 16. Like it was not a rated R. And I was, I was but then again, like outside the drug use,
It's
like
not,
there
it's pretty good. Yeah, it's not crazy. You have a porn star in there. I guess that's the craziest part.
yeah, but there's still like, there's
Probably
no
pushed it
nudity.
to
There's a couple like
16.
sex scenes, but they're not graphic
Yeah,
at all. So there's a bit
the
of swearing
comedy.
in it.
It's kind of like an American Pie movie. What was American Pie rated? Like 18?
I think they were flat out ours because
Oh
they
yeah, because they had like nudity in it.
yeah they were like they were much more crude than Hotbox. Like Hotbox wasn't. Some people made it out to be like it was offensive, but it was like more censored than any movie I've done, just like in general, because people were offended by the drug humor. Which honestly, the drug humor wasn't even that much of the
There
story.
wasn't even that much. Yeah, like people smoked weed, but it wasn't like integral to the story or anything like that.
Yeah,
It could have happened anywhere. You could have changed it to drinking party and like,
yeah. But yeah, we got like the Hotbox page on Facebook got banned just because it was.
isn't that crazy? Like,
Yeah, I don't
again, you
know.
could have changed it to drinking party. I feel like you could, or like called it house party, and it would have been
Yeah,
fine. But the second
yeah,
you call a hot box, suddenly it's like, ah,
and the pot leaf on on the poster,
yeah,
like I don't know what it was
so
specifically,
arbitrary to a certain degree.
but that's the only time I've really felt like we've gotten in trouble for posting clips from Grotesque on Facebook, but we've never been in trouble just for the whole concept of the movie. But
Your
we
entire
had
concept is offensive to me.
yeah, like we had like people that wouldn't promote it, like with Grotesque, we go to like podcasts and newspapers, anywhere we could, and ask for interviews and stuff, and there were some that were flat out like, no, we can't do it because of the drugs. And I just found that so weird that a movie about killing dozens of people is perfectly fine, but you have someone smoking a joint in a movie, and then it's
Have I
considered
talked
offensive.
about the difference I found between American film and European film before?
No.
It's kind of weird. Like the thing I found, like having consumed European TV and American TV, um, in North America, you can get away with a lot of violence and like still kind of get away with it, but you really can't go into the sex and drugs route. The second you even go in there a little bit, it's like, all right, hold on, stop. We gotta like add extra ratings here. And in Europe, I'm like, I don't know, this it's been years since I've watched actual European TV, so maybe things have changed. But like in Europe, as far as I was aware, the whole thing's reversed, where like you can basically show an almost nude body on like daytime television and it's fine, but you cannot stab or shoot a gun without like filling out a million forms and still getting fined, which is like kind of crazy. It reflects a little bit of the culture in both spots, but like yeah, I always thought that was an interesting thing that you could like basically stab a person in the eye and still get kind of a G rating in
Yeah, that's
North.
weird. And honestly, I mean, it's just a different culture. I can't even really say if either of them's right or wrong.
No, it's just different cultural experiences.
Because it could be, I mean, obviously, violence is obvious, killing someone's worse than nudity, obviously. But the thing is, the nudity is and the sex is real, whereas the violence is totally staged. So it's like, what's
That's an
worse? Like,
interesting point. I've never had someone bring that up actually.
it's like naked people having sex. That's very, very real. Chopping someone's head off, that's just stage and it's not real. So, like, you could see why in the US they're like, well, there's one reason we censor it. But so I think like both of them kind of have a point and both of them are kind of wrong. It's just like whatever. But one's France, one's US. They're never going to agree on anything. I just find it weird that just like over the years and decades, like it's like different things seem censored. And like I remember in the 80s, the whole satanic panic. I remember even back then, like just people like my friends that would have like Dungeons and Dragons stuff. And it was all of a sudden like it was a
Everybody
big
was all
deal.
about like the Dungeons and Dragons Satanic thing. I never grew up around that, but I've
I
heard
know.
about it. Like,
It was so weird because like even in like my circles, because I went to church and stuff, and it was like
yeah,
that's evil, and people like if you like don't go to bed with that stuff in your bedroom because freaking like the devil's going to appear and all this stuff that that age I didn't really believe, but I didn't quite not believe. It kind of freaked me out, and it was like there were bookstores in my hometown where they would sell that stuff like the D&D,
not even
and it
bookstores. I
was
mean,
like they would get in trouble for it. Whereas now that's like nerd culture. Like it's
well, not even bookstores. I never grew up in Canada and North America, but like, did you have a Ouija board as a kid, as a toy?
no, no. I think that was long since banned. Like you can't really.
Oh, really? It got banned. I was always
I don't know if they
surprised.
were actually banned, but I just remember like I've never seen one in my entire life for sale outside of like Amazon or something.
Yeah, I always thought it was weird that they made that into a children's toy briefly. I remember a commercial I saw on a VHS tape for Ouija boards, and I was just like, huh, that's a children's toy then, huh?
Yeah, it's like it's one of those. I think like after Exorcist or something, it just became so bad. I think to this day, like you would never find one, as far as I know, in like a even a board game store. Like it's just not a. I think The Exorcist is so ingrained in everyone's
In
head that
everybody's head, they're just like, no more. No, we can
even
never
people
do
that
this.
don't believe in that kind of stuff are like, that's still where we draw the line, but yeah, like
Ouija
yeah, I
board
remember.
rated R.
Yeah, I remember like there was so many like heavy metal music, like
Oh
even
yeah,
back.
I remember that. That was the whole, yeah.
I remember even growing up in when the Tea Party, the Canadian band, the Tea Party.
Mm-hmm.
There was like a music store in my hometown that banned the Tea Party album for being
Really?
satanic. And I was like, because remember me
Tea
and my friend
party of
went to
all
buy it,
bands, huh?
and they were like, "No, we don't carry that kind of thing here." And it's like, Jesus, like just the fact that people were that like this isn't like 1650. This is like 1991. Like it's
It's a
just
whole new decade.
yeah, it's kind of crazy that in that recent history there was censorship like that, and it's kind of gotten more chill. Like now you can pretty much do anything.
Well, heavy metal is in the popular consciousness. Anytime something new pops up, everybody it's all controversial, and then it like subsides in the next 5 years, and then in the next 10 years, it's just part of popular consciousness and it
Yeah,
becomes like accepted. Because now people playing Iron Man in the Marvel movies,
yeah, yeah.
like
It's just generations go by, and next thing you know, it's like, well, now it's like grandparents are listening to Iron Maiden because that's what they grew up with.
That's what they grew up with.
So it's like, is it really the people that were against it have kind of slowly died off, and now there's like a new generation. You remember when Marilyn Manson was like the most evil thing in the world, and now it's like, yeah, whatever. It's regardless of anything he may or may not have done in his personal life. Like, is his music really that bad? Like, it's just
Well, I mean, what do you mean by bad? Because I would argue like some of his music since like a couple of albums pretty bad, but like not offensive. Just
yeah, but I mean that's your personal taste on it, but it's like he was like the Antichrist for a while.
no,
Like,
yeah, he was, but like yeah, so that kind of like also subside. I mean, I'm sure like actually no, now that I think about it, I was gonna say I'm sure if someone like came up now and was like, I'm the Antichrist and everything, it'd be shocking, but like I don't think so. I think there's been people that have tried to do that gimmick and it doesn't go that far.
even bands like Ghost that are like openly satanic, are winning friggin' Grammy awards and that kind of thing. Is it's like people just stopped caring, but it was heavy metal for a while. It was gangster rap, just like people would vilify some group of entertainment, and I think it's gotten to the point now where it's like they've almost run out of things to vilify. Like they go after jazz music now. It's like what do they get? It's like
Everybody's gonna be straight edge in the next thing. Everybody's
it's
just
just
gonna be like, no tattoos, no nothing. We're like listening to Roy Orbison the
yeah,
whole
yeah.
time.
I think it's just people eventually realize that okay, it's not the music that's causing all the problems in the world and or movies, and it's just like things get made and it's just like offensive or not, it's usually just people speaking their mind. Like as
Well,
long as
those
you're not
stories have to
actively.
get told. Like you either like they get to express them artistically, or you bottle it up, and then they become bad feelings that you then have to deal with some other
Yeah,
way. Like those stories have to be told.
and you can't like, I mean, I guess you could censor content to a degree, but you can't say like no one's allowed to make rap music or
Well,
heavy
yeah, I
metal. Like
mean,
you just
Russia's
can't.
trying
Like
to do that, aren't they? Is it Russia or China? Someone's trying to stop that at
yeah,
one point. It's not working out.
it just like you can't silence like an entire group of
Art
people's
form.
voice. Like it'd be like saying you can't make horror movies anymore. Like it's not going to happen. I think they've just stopped trying. And once they realize, you know what, if you just kind of forget about it and focus on other things, the people that like gangster rap or heavy metal or horror movies, they're just going to do it, and for the most part, not you know be violent criminals.
Well, yeah, if you can go the opposite way, just be like, all right, shock the hell out of us. And like eventually the people that are trying to do the shock stuff, like run out of ways to shock you and everything just subsides back. And it's just
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
now we're
exactly.
just making art.
Even Gwar is one of my favorite bands, and
Oh
their
yeah.
stuff is they're a shock rock band, but honestly, it's nothing that.
Now it's more about the lore of Guar. Like you want to know about like what's happening with Guar more than it is like, oh, they're beheading Obama on stage.
Yeah, it's like they're not that shocking, but they're still making good music. They're still
Yeah.
popular, and so I think it's kind of like yeah, even in the '90s, the whole parental advisory, explicit lyrics. Remember, and they put that on CDs, and that would just tell you which are the coolest CDs, basically.
I want that one.
Yeah, it was almost like a badge of like make you proud to get that on your album or something. But
Yeah, yeah, I've never thought like now, I guess here's my question. Do you make a distinction between censorship and ratings? Because I think it's fine to rate things and be like, well, this has some gore, we're gonna make this an R. But I don't think it's fine to censor something and be like, you have to get rid of this for it to be like an R or something like that. Like, there's
yeah,
that fine
exactly.
distinction.
I have no problem with ratings because, like, even on our movies, like some people might not like violence. So if you say, by the way, there's violence in this, if you don't like
You'll
that,
need
don't
to
watch
know.
it. Just like that's fine. But if it's like you are not allowed to do that because of whatever censorship reason, like we're not actually hurting anyone,
It's
that's where
almost
I'll
like we
it
need
has a
like
problem.
we need a wider censor. We need a wider rating system. Like I don't, whatever categories we have at the moment, I don't know if they're enough.
It's one of those. It's just like it's a necessity. You have to do it to put your movie in the theater. Like I don't even
Yes.
pay attention. Some of my movies, even like on IMDb, they have like a rating, and it's like I don't remember if I submitted it or somehow else it got rated. But it really it's not something I pay attention to because it doesn't. It's not going to affect our bottom line. Like if we get an X or an NC-17 rating, like It's like we make so little money at indie film anyway. It's like there's nothing they can really take away from us. We may as well do what we want.
That's fair.
Cool. Well, that was a great discussion on censorship.
Oh.
I mean, I'm going to continue doing what I want, and for
Come
anyone
and
that's
get me.
All right. Well, that was a great show. So we will see everyone next time.
All right. See you later, Brandon.
Bye.